Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We got a lot to talk about. We've been continuing to talk this week around the early stage venture landscape. What does this mean? What's happening? What's not happening all around the world in different regions and different industries? So we've been bringing investors together to break it all down because early stage means something very different today than it did last year, the year before, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It continues to evolve. Companies are raising more money at higher valuations earlier, but in some industries, not so much. In others, much more extreme. So we brought a few investors to talk to us about a different side of the world and different industries today to continue this conversation. And if you like what you hear, make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, check out the archive on LATOKEN.com, and also a big shout out to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making today's episode possible. With that, let's go ahead and introduce today's guests. David, welcome. First up, you've got one side of the world's perspective we're going to hear from today, but before we get into that, a little introduction and background on yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Schachter from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I work in e-commerce with CBD. I started my company. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I was started up at an Israeli startup company and eventually moved back to the States to really come after the market here.
Very cool. Well, welcome, David. Angeles, welcome as well from Startup Chile. A little introduction, a little background on yourself.
Hi, thank you very much for this invitation. Wonderful for me to be here with all of you. I am Angeles Romo. I am the CEO of Startup Chile, the main accelerator program for Latin America and for Chile as well, and one of the 10 global in the global way. And I would like to talk a little bit about what is happening in Latin America and Chile, about the seed investment process and how Startup Chile have a wonderful role about this.
Wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. I mean, what are you seeing, Angeles, around early and seed stage investing in Latin America and South America as a whole? I mean, you've done a ton of great work with Startup Chile, but paint us a picture of the landscape. What's happening, what's not happening within the regions?
Yeah, it's interesting for me to share with you what is happening now in Startup Chile in Latin America. And probably first of all, I would like to let you know that Startup Chile is part of the government of Chile, and the government of Chile has been working on very focused on venture capital industry since 20 years ago. So it's working on entrepreneurship, innovation, and venture capital industry because we understand the focus and importance of entrepreneurs for the industry as well. So in Chile, we have a public policy very focused on to support the private sector and mentors, business angels, venture capital industry on to invest and to support the industry as well. So what we have in Chile is an ecosystem of a serial number of venture capital funds focused on to invest into entrepreneurship for the local way, but also in the region. And at the same time, what we have been doing is working in Chile and how to attract not only the entrepreneurial talent, but also to attract the venture capitalist talent to Chile to invest in Chile and for the region as well. What we have in the landscape is probably we have grown a lot about the industry. What is doing is we have having companies invested by venture capital industry, but we are still focused in probably in the very early stage. And what we are focused on for the next period is also to be focused on the late moment of the companies. The Series A, B, C is interesting for us to explore. And what is happening at this time is probably the still in the early stage.
And explain to us, if you can, what is early stage? In different parts of the world, that has a very different definition. For you in Chile and South America, maybe even Latin America is going to be three different ones. But for Chile, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Early stage.
it's interesting because at the same time we used to have different impression and about the stages of the companies. Basically because the government of Chile has been supporting the venture capital industry and has been very focused on the very early stage. We used to see companies up to $1 million in revenues in the very early stage. The most of the funds are looking for this kind of companies beside the grants or the tools or instrument that the government already have in a mixture in between the private sector and the public sector as well. So what we used to see is companies until or up to 1 million revenues companies who are raising capital or raising money from the venture funds, even crowdfunding, even business angel and etc. And also obviously in the early, I mean, idea moment or prototype moment, very linked to the government by grants or public sectors.
Wonderful. And thank you, Angeles. And David, I want to come to you. I mean, as a founder and, having raised capital, having built in multiple countries, I mean, what is, early stage venture capital for you? I mean, what is this experience like? Is it easy? Is it fun? Is it hard? Is it difficult? I mean, what does this all mean for you as a founder, especially in an industry that's typically classified as a vice industry, or one that not everyone wants to invest in? Based on their thesis, et cetera. So what has it been like for you as a founder on the early stage side?
Yeah, early stage for us was just being pre-revenue. Saying 100 million. That's beyond. That's a working company. We went from an early prototype. It was kind of a cool idea. The industry is so new. There's so many things happening. A big part of it was education and educating the consumers on the brands, on the products, new industry. So everybody was early stage, whether it's just getting the real estate and getting the licenses. We were all kind of learning together over the last 5-10 years. Now that the companies have more evolved, the tech companies, that they can scale kind of changes things when it comes to presenting as a investment opportunity. Even though it's early stage, the potential for e-commerce is, proven itself over this last year, definitely with the pandemic. And while cannabis is becoming essential and people are still going into stores, I think the online aspect of it and the scalability shows that there's a lot of growth in the industry still, because licenses have been state by state and region by region and locality. As an early stage, even the companies that are MSO, multiple state operators, they're only in a handful of states. So we've all kind of been early stage. It's just how fast can everybody get to revenue?
You're right, and I mean, as an early stage founder going out to raise your first funds or raising your first rounds, what was that process like for you? And where did you start? Kind of how did you begin that journey? And were you looking locally or globally? We talked earlier this week on VC TV about how there's been more opportunities to raise capital than ever before. You can do it through crowdfunding, you can do it through angels, family offices, VCs, corporate venture capitals. I mean, institutions. There's money everywhere for all stages of companies, more than there ever has been. So David, to you, how is this experience, or how was that experience for you and your team raising on a local or a global scale? What was that journey like?
Yeah, there's no one solution for all. I think it starts, there's the sweat equity of the co-founders of how much, you can do on your own as a tech platform. We were able to do a lot of the development in-house. And then it came to financing. So first was family and friends. And then we went to an equity crowdfunding campaign last year. And that really brought life into the company. We were able to develop we did a micro ventures, was the platform that hosted our campaign, and we'll be back on another one. And that it brought the community. It really made it a grassroots. We had over 400 people. We raised 140,000, and that was able to really turn us into an e-commerce affiliate program. So we had a concept, proof of concept. We had a few early adopters that were paid pilot programs, and we were able to present, our deck. The big thing when you're going to try to raise is you have to have your deck. People want to see what you're going to do with the money. What have you done so far? And the VCs and even some private angels, like I did a few events and I talked to people afterwards after I got off stage, and we were too small for them then. So the crowdfunding campaign, friends, family was where we were able to get in. Hopefully we'll get into this in Series B, Series C, where it's institutional investors. But I found it very difficult for them to really look at us being such an early stage back then.
Mm-hmm. And Angeles, I see you shaking your head. I mean, for early stage, raising in Chile or South America, I know there's a ton of activity in Brazil. There's a little bit more growing in Argentina and Chile as well, respectfully. And then also in Colombia, we have a flourishing tech scene that I've heard and learned about. Just in South America as a whole. I mean, raising early stage capital, what is that experience like for those that you work with in Startup Chile?
Well, what used to happen? I mean, and I would like to share with you the experience that we have. What we have in Chile is we receive entrepreneurs in the very early stage. Actually, they used to have an idea. They are not really close to raising capital neither. But in the meantime that they start thinking on how to grow their companies, they start thinking also that they need financing. So what used to happen is from Chile is the companies or the entrepreneurs in this route used to go abroad, used to go to Colombia, actually Brazil, Mexico, and even United States. And that is probably a weak area or side of this conversation in Chile. Why? Because we have been working, as I told you before, we have been working in thinking about how to consolidate the ecosystem for entrepreneurs from around the world coming to Chile. And in this point, we are a little bit weak, still weak. And what point I guess is interesting to think a little bit more. What we can do for push the big players even be part of this ecosystem from Chile and also for the region. We used to think a little bit about pension funds, for example, and we are start thinking and discussing about the role of the big companies in this industry as well, and thinking if the role of the government should be in the way of promote or validate or coordinate only, and etc. The main problem at this point is when we have companies thinking bigger and looking for the way to implement their companies, they used to go abroad to raise the money, the capital, and that is I mean, difficult for the local ecosystem as well. So what we are working on is try to, I mean, not only to retain the talent, but also to think what is the best way to coordinate in the region, the best way to support this kind of companies or entrepreneurs. And probably the point here is to start thinking on how to think this global or region as one big ecosystem. You know what I mean? I mean, just not only uh, local investors in Colombia or in Argentina or in Brazil thinking on how to invest or to support companies in the local way, but also to start thinking in the Pacific Alliance, for example, as a big market, and how we create conditions for investors and also for entrepreneurs to arrive to a region, a big market in the different ways.
And with that being said, Angeles, how should someone, if someone's listening right now as an investor, how should they think about entering the market of Chile or South America as a whole, looking to start making investments within the region at the early stage?
Yeah.
Those again, pre-seed and seed companies, right? Pre-revenue or less than $1 million in revenue for today's definition. How should you get started?
Yeah, it's wonderful your question, because what we can be working in Chile is different tools and incentives to attract and venture capitalists, and even business angels. Probably is difficult. It's much more difficult than the first, to attract them. I mean, the contact is through Invest Chile, which is the agency in Chile focused on to attract investment to the country, but also through Startup Chile, because the contact point is the entrepreneur who is looking for to raise capital. So in the first part of your question is, yes, we have incentives from the government of Chile to attract not only entrepreneurs, but also venture capitalists and business angels. I mean, people looking for to invest in entrepreneurship that can arrive to Chile in a preferent composition or a scenario, and that is through the government of Chile, through Investment Chile, Invest Chile, Pro Chile, or Startup Chile. And on the other side, for entrepreneurs here in this conversation as well, very welcome to Startup Chile, which is a place to find investment points and also contact relationship with the region as well.
This is great. A great entrance point to a great area and to a great program for those that are listening. And David, coming to you around cannabis. I mean, if investors are looking to get involved in the cannabis industry, where do you suggest they look? Aside from your company, what areas are you starting to see really take off around cannabis in terms of the landscape as a whole?
So big news in cannabis is New York just legalized. That's just going to have ripple effects across the East Coast. I mean, most of the West Coast is already has medical or recreational, but for New York, I mean, that's like a really big deal. I think investing in cannabis is in its second, third stages in the sense of the real estate and the facilities, whether it's the production or the growing facilities, already somewhat established, the brands, as well as the retail, whether it's delivery and dispensary. It's now into the second, third stage of ancillary companies that are, there's so many things that go into, whether it's education, there's hardware, software, there's a lot of parts of the industry, marketing, things that people are doing to set themselves apart, that having the store, the location is somewhat established. And even in the new states, they're coming in from other states. Illinois is leading a big part of it. So I'd say look into tech companies and but there's a few different, there's the OTC, there's some of them are trading on NASDAQ. A lot of people have raised, there's the NFTs, there's lots of merger acquisitions, recent SPAC. So I think there's multiple ways if people really want to get involved now. It's not so taboo being able to put your money involved.
You're right. I think you're calling out a great point there, is that it's no longer taboo. It's no longer considered a vice based investment. Instead, this is this is a very flourishing industry in many ways on a global scale, as we're starting to see cannabis start to open up in many markets around the world as well. And Angeles, anything to add around the cannabis industry and what people should be paying attention to?
Yes, I was thinking about exactly the same. Is what important is to understand or to know actually what is happening in the world in terms of financing and early stage venture and seed investment, and what kind of support or even investment do I need as entrepreneur. What usually happens is people knocking the doors in different ways, but not the right door that you need to knock to receive the support that you are looking for or you really need in terms of the state of your company or you are. That is tricky because we have a very big industry working with entrepreneurs, and usually they don't knock the right door, which is a lot of frustration and etc. So I guess it's interesting to share the experience that is important for the entrepreneurs and also for the investors in the general way, to understand what they are looking for and what they really need in terms of investment, and much more than only the investment or raising money, is what kind of support they need, or they need to look for. And that is, I guess, is as a critical, still a critical point.
It is, and we're continuing to see those resources, grow and increase as well. I mean, there's never been more, capital, as I've already said, but also resources and really easy on-ramps to building a company, product, or service right now. I mean, we spoke yesterday a lot around low-code solutions and developer platforms that individuals who are willing and ready and excited to go on that journey, as tough as it may be to start your own company, you can do this a lot easier today than you could before, especially on the technology side as well. And then if you know and understand a certain industry, or as David and his team have spent a lot of time in that industry, you can get something going and started as well. And then you've got great programs like yourselves at Startup Chile that are there to help and provide additional resources from the government all the way through to local resources as well. And Angeles, when you look at sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on what you just said. Like, I mean, a few years ago, I ran a small little company off my phone with an eBay account and dropship ordering. And it's like, you can do this with your smartphone. You can more or less run a business, online banking. A lot of these tools are more or less available for the entrepreneurs in a way that wasn't possible a few years ago. Taxes, all these things. There's so many tools and apps now that being an entrepreneur nowadays is much more resources. Just running your company. I don't know so much that going out, like you're saying, knocking on the right doors. I'd like to hear more about that, because what doors, like, that's a really hard thing for entrepreneurs to know who to talk to. And but operation wise, it's never been easier to run a business from your phone.
And in the same
we're running a business right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
At the same time, I was thinking that nowadays we are absolutely full connected. I mean, it's exactly the same if you are in UK and you in Chicago and I'm in Chile. All of us are in the same place. I mean, in a virtual place, And the same thing happened in the entrepreneurship, and also for the venture capital. So what I used to think is, now is the time that we really will be absolutely global. We need to be following the problems, the opportunities, the entrepreneurs, the accelerators as Startup Chile, and also the venture capitalist or investor in the general way. Doesn't matter if you are here or if you are on the other side in the world. Doesn't matter if we are able to connect in between opportunities to solve as entrepreneur and opportunities to invest as investor. And this is a good challenge. And for the reason, I guess, this kind of conversation are really wonderful, because I can talk a little bit about what is happening at the end of the world. Doesn't matter if you are on the other side, you could be interested in to come along to Chile, or even to keep in touch in a long way,
Well, and it's a good point. I mean, to David's question, but also to your comment is, I mean, we're all digital. I mean, David, you ran a business from your phone. We're all digital. I mean, if in terms of knocking on the right doors, it's just really doing research and learning who's investing, who's building, what do you need, et cetera, out there for any founder. Now, I'm not saying it's easy by all means, but there's tons out there, tons of resources, a ton. And if you can't find them, reach out to any of us on this panel or many others, and you can find them. And I know Startup Chile and Invest Hong Kong and many other government-driven organizations have plethora of this. But that being said, because we are all digital, to Angelus's point, you can now reach out to people you never once could and connect with them because we are so digitally connected. You can follow them on social media. You can learn from them as individuals. You can see the content they're writing. You can engage with them, build a relationship, and not have to travel the world. I mean, you go back 10 years, you wanted to fundraise. You went to a handful of places, and very, very bluntly, most people went to the Bay Area to go raise capital and then stayed and or left. Now, fast forward, and speaking very generally, but now you can raise money from anywhere. You can be sitting in wherever you may be in the world, to Angelus's point. You could do what you did, David, you and your team, and you can upload onto a crowdfunding site, raise through equity, raise through traditional capital with your product. You could also do a syndicate, or you could meet VCs and angels and family offices and institutions all faster in a few clicks than you could before. Now, that being said, some of that when it comes to fundraising is a full game of numbers. If you reach out to one person and think you're done, I've got news for you, you've lost. Start back at square one and reach out to many people. If you're very, very fortunate to find an industry like David's, for instance, that had a limited set, so you know who to go to, that's different. But for most industries, you've got hundreds of thousands of investors, and especially now as rules have changed and more platforms have opened, giving the ability for people to invest who never could before, even a year ago, now as well. So there's tons of great opportunities for entrepreneurs. And we just spoke earlier on VC Today around NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and decentralized finance, and how this digital economy we're all living in right now in these boxes, this is probably one of the most, if not the most exciting times to ever build a company. Now, that gets said about every decade. Every time there's a new cycle, that gets said. But I truly believe, and as do a lot of the investors over the past months here on VC TV, now is the time. More people are connected. More people are living both physically and digitally and looking for those bridges. So you've got plenty of chances as well. And again, I'll just add before I switch gears here, not everyone's going to be successful. Not every company is going to be successful. Not every company is going to live forever. Not every founder is going to be successful raising capital. And not every customer is going to love your product. But that doesn't mean this isn't a great opportunity to try to build and to try to fundraise as well. But that being said, Angelus and David, anything else to add on really where the stage of venture capital is around early and seed stage? And then I've got one more big question for you. But Angelus, anything to add?
No, probably to think a little bit about what is the moment and in life that we are living in the venture capital point of view. I guess this is, even at least in Latin America, an industry still growing. And it's interesting to understand and to take the good practices around the world about this kind of this industry in particular. And I would like to take to know the good practices to recreate, the new industry of venture capital for at least Latin America. We know a lot about the industry, but we are in a different moment, and I guess we need to have a refocus and to rewrite how we are thinking the next 50 years of venture capital industry in the world as well.
Absolutely. David, anything else in closing thoughts? What do you have for those, again, that should know about cannabis, that should know about the industry and know why now is the time to start investing into this? And then where can they find you and your company online?
Well, my company is Cannabiscopecom, and it's really now we're helping entrepreneurs. So anyone who wants to open their own CBD shop, which you can run from your phone, like we were talking about, is running your own business. And we've created one of these tools to help entrepreneurs. Cannabis industry is really expensive to get licensings and to get started, and takes a long time. And we wanted to really break that barrier for entrepreneurs. So the idea is to get them started. It's a platform for investing wise. Early stage startups in the cannabis industry is it's still young, even though Colorado's and Oregon have had a few years and California's had 20 plus years of medical. The industry is really young. So anyone interested in investing in cannabis in general, it's, I believe, fully in the industry. It's only going to grow the more and more products, the barriers that's going to be available in more and more places. It's becoming more acceptable for pets, for our seniors. So I think it's really positive to get into the cannabis space in any way you can.
Wonderful. Thank you, David. And Angeles, to you, any closing thoughts, a shout out for Startup Chile, and where can everyone find you in the program to connect if they're looking to either start investing or start building with you as partners?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for this invitation to talk a little bit about what is happening in the world about the venture capital industry and entrepreneurship. So thank you very much, and congratulations for this initiative and all you have organized for this happen. This is the first thing. And the second one, I would like to invite all of you guys watching this program to come along Chile. We have a wonderful program of acceleration in Latin America. Is in Chile. It's called Startup Chile. We will open the next convocatory in a couple of weeks. So I invite all of you to follow us in Instagram, Startup Chile, in LinkedIn, and also in Facebook, and also in our website, to know a little bit about what is the program, how we can help you, how we can connect you in the region, and how you can raise capital from Startup Chile as well. The convocatory is the next 15th of April, so it's in a couple of weeks. So follow us in startupchile.org.
Wonderful. Angeles and David, thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts and insights. Audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, check out the archive on LATOKEN.com. But more importantly, make sure you follow David and Angeles as well to learn more about cannabis and Startup Chile respectfully as well. And also do reach out and make sure you add context when you do, where you heard, where you met them, and also what you would like to continue the conversation about. A big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making today's episode of VCTV possible. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me as well as our speakers today on all social media platforms. Please do reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And again, we'll see you back here tomorrow with more VCTV as we continue the conversation. Everyone have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye.